Hi, this is Lance Culver, and this is going to be a TyFlow 3D Studio Max tutorial. In a previous video, I created this very simple vehicle rig with basic geometry and tie binds to create a dynamic simulation with TyFlow. If you haven't had a chance to watch that video, I highly recommend take a moment, click the link that's in the top right corner of the video, and go check that out. There will also be a link available in the description. In an effort to save a little time, I'm going to assume that you have watched the previous video, and I'm going to be using the rig that I built in that tutorial as a starting point for this tutorial. In this video, I will demonstrate how to add a few simple elements to this rig to create a steering capability for a more interactive simulation. A few simple changes to this. I'm going to start by creating a couple of spheres. I'll just hold shift and create a copy of this one. And I'm going to align each one of these spheres to the front cylinders. Next, I will create a box, something like this. I'm going to rotate it down 90 degrees. I'm going to lift it up here, move it over, and I'm going to go ahead and align it to the center, but not the Y position, to the main body of the rig. Next, I'm just going to create a copy of that. And I'm going to size it down. Okay, so next I'm going to come over to the Create tab over here on Helpers. And here under TyFlow, if it's not selected, click on this drop down, come down to TyFlow. I'm going to create 4 tie binds. And now I'm going to align these tie binds, one to each of these new objects I've created. I'm going to align it to the pivots. Go ahead and hide this chassis. I'm going to select this tie bind here I created for this front right sphere. I'm going to come over to the Modify tab, and here under Bind Objects for the top object, I'm going to come over here and select this box right here that's acting as this wheel's shock. And then for the bottom object, I'm going to select this sphere. And then same thing for this tie bind. For the top object, I'm going to select this box. And for the bottom object, I'm going to select the sphere. With that tie bind already selected, I'm going to hold Control and select this tie bind. And I'm going to create an instance tie bind settings. I'm going to basically leave everything at its default except for the limit Z. I'm going to change to 35. And I'm going to turn off the show icon and increase the size of it a little bit. And then now for this tie bind, for the top object, I'm going to select the chassis, and for the bottom object, I'm going to select this long box. And I'm going to go ahead and add a tie bind settings, and I'm going to enable the twist settings, enable drive. I'm going to change the spring value to something low, 30, and same thing with the damping. I'm going to reduce that to 10. I'm also going to uncheck show icon, and I'm going to rotate this tie bind 90 degrees. Okay, next for the bind objects, for the top object, I'm going to select this long box. For the bottom object, I'm going to select this small box, and I'm going to add a tie bind settings. I will enable twist, add a 0 to this, enable drive, uncheck show icon, and I'm going to also rotate this 90 degrees. Okay, now I'm going to turn on the original tie bind so I can see them. I'm going to select this tie bind for this front left tire. I'm going to select tie bind, and under the bind objects, click here where it indicates this box, and I'm going to select this sphere. And I'm going to do the same thing for this other one. I'm going to click this top button and replace it with this sphere. Okay, so now the sphere is connected to the shock, the tire is connected to the sphere, shock's connected to the body of the rig, and these two are connected to the chassis as well. So now I'm going to add these tie binds that I've created to the actor. In the previous video, I added a tie properties to each one of these cylinders and gave it a channel of spin with a value of 1. So I'm just going to keep that in place, but I'm going to add that to each one of these spheres. The tie properties is in this modifier list. I'm going to add channel spin and leave the value at 1, but I'm also going to add channel front, and I'm going to add channel steer. I'm also going to add new tie properties to these two. I'm going to add channel front and leave the value at 1. I'm also going to select both of these boxes and add a tie properties. I'm going to add channel drive, and then I'm going to select just this little box, add another tie properties. I'm going to add channel driver. I'm going to go ahead and shut off these icons also and turn on TyFlow. And lower this icon down. I'm going to go ahead and open the editor. And again, if you happen to watch the previous video and you followed along, you'll have a flow that looks like this. And this is a good starting point, so I'm just going to add to it. And we'll start with a property test. And I will change the test type to custom float. And test true if equal to 1 on channel spin. We'll go ahead and take that spin and drop it into a new event. Connect that to the property test. Go ahead and bring this display down also. Change the color. And we'll rename this back tires. And I will also make a copy of this property test. We'll make another copy as well. But for this property test, I'm going to choose channel front. And we'll connect that to this event. Rename this front tires. For this property test, I'm going to change the channel to steer. And one last time, I'm going to create a new event here, and I'm going to rename the event steer. I'm going to connect that to the property test. And change the color. So now I've got those elements separated. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for these two objects here. I'm going to change it to channel drive. And one more time, drag the property test into the drive event. Change the channel to driver. I'm going to add a particle groups into the chassis event beneath the actor. I'm going to enable group 1. I'm going to add a particle groups to the driver event, and I'm going to place that on group 2. And next I'm going to add a rotation to the steer event. I'm going to change the orientation to align to neighbors. And I will align to neighbors on simulation group 2 that are within a radius of 250. And I'll change the timing to continuous. And uncheck affect particle shape orientation and reduce the interpolation to something like 0.8. So now if I create a line, and I add a path follow to the driver event and pick the line, increase the follow velocity to something like 30 centimeters, reduce the attraction to 0, I need to increase the spin rate, maybe 600. Can add a mass operator into the steer event and give that a value of 3.5 or so. So if I scrub through this, turn it into something that I can have a lot of control over, and from here I can easily add interaction with scene geometry, such as if I were to drop a physics collision in this chassis event above the property test and add these cylinders, enable simulation group 1, so now if I drop a flock operator into the driver event, come over here to obstacles, and I add these cylinders, and I increase this direction to something like 45 and give it a 20% variation. I'll go ahead and increase this distance to 100 centimeters with a 75 centimeter fall off. So now if I scrub through, if you get any wobble in the wheels, you can increase the time steps and the sub steps in the TyFlow settings. This took a few minutes to set up, but as you can see, there was nothing at all complicated about it. It just further illustrates what a phenomenal plugin TyFlow is and how easy it is to use. In a future video, I will demonstrate how to expand on this setup and add more dynamic elements to the rig to create a more advanced simulation. That's going to do it for me today. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch the video, and as always, if there was any part of this that you didn't understand or you're still having trouble with, feel free to drop a comment below. If you enjoyed the video, please press the like button, and if you haven't already, please subscribe. That would be awesome. I hope you have a great day, and until next time, thanks again. See ya.